All right. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. As I said, we are so excited to have you all here with us, joining us virtually. Isn't it so cool that we can all be gathering from different parts of the country and be together to hear from Sister Hena Khan, an award-winning children's book author who I'm sure you might have read some of her books. We'll see. I'm Shahza Khan. I am the executive director of the organization that is hosting this. It's called the Islamic Schools League of America. And I just wanted to share a little bit about me with you. If it's okay with your teacher, you don't have to unmute. But what do you see on the screen? What is something that you know about me? You can raise your hand and your teacher can call on you, or you can shout it out. I'm guessing that some of you might have seen that I'm a mom. Yes, I am a mom of 3 children. My oldest is 17 and my youngest is 8 years old. And she's homesick today. So unfortunately, she's not in school today. But she is a big fan of Sister Hena Khan's books, mashallah. I am also, can any of you guess what the other two things here mean? Hmm, what do you think? Yes, I was a teacher. You're right. I was a teacher for a long time, mashallah. Ever since I was very little, I wrote in my book about what I want to be when I grow up, and I wrote that I want to be a teacher. So I have been a teacher. I'm not a teacher right now, but I think once a teacher, always a teacher, right, teachers? Okay, and what's this last thing? I'll tell you. Maybe you've guessed it. I'm also an author, but I'm not an author the same way that Sister Hena is an author. You probably don't want to read all the things that I've written. They're about research and data, things that I find really exciting. But I was also a poet once upon a time, and I have a dream of being a children's book author too at some point. But let's get to the person you really want to know about. You probably want to know about our guest, Sister Hena Khan. So I'm really excited. Sister Hena Khan is here with us. And she has been publishing books for children for many years now, including many that feature Pakistani Americans and Muslim characters for over 20 years. And by the way, yes, we do share the same last name, but we're not related. Are any of you guys Khans? Anyone there, Khan? Oh, I see people in Miss Jihan's class turning around. There might be a Khan there. And anybody's name Henna? Okay. Well, anyone here a Muslim? Yeah, alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Awesome. Thanks, Sister Noor, for sharing that. Yeah, so Sister Hena writes books about people like you and me. That's so exciting. She writes stories for kids of all ages, including classics you've probably heard of, like Golden Domes and Silver Lanterns and It's Ramadan, Curious George, as well as chapter books, novels, and even graphic novels. She's won several awards and loves to highlight her culture, community, friendship, and family in her writing. Sister Hena grew up in Maryland, where she still lives now with her family. So you might be wondering why we're having this gathering with you all today. And it's really a simple reason. We want to encourage students and children to love reading and to read more, inshallah. And since Sister Hena is an author, why not do it with an author that you might have read books of? So, inshallah, she's going to share some of the books that she's written and talk to us a little bit about those books. Do you see any books here that you own or have read? You can raise your hand if you do. Yes? Okay, awesome. Today, we're going to focus on just a few of the stories that Sister Hena has authored, and they're all different kinds of stories. So that's the whole point, that even if you feel like, I don't know, I'd much rather be on my device than read. There are some kids out there who are like that. We're hoping we can help you discover a book that you love and a kind of book that you love so that you can, inshallah, engage in more and more reading this summer. And for the teachers here, we have some really exciting news for you, that this is just like a launch for you to encourage your students to engage in more reading this summer, inshallah. Two of the things that we're doing this, or Sister Henna's doing with her team, is to allow students to get signed book plates from Sister Henna for each of their books that are Hena Khan books. So we'll share a link with you afterwards, maybe by tomorrow, about how your students can participate in that. And then what's really exciting is that we're also have a program about how you can have a one-on-one virtual visit. So just for your class with Sister Hena Khan this fall, inshallah. And so we'll share more about that. So Sister Hena, I've spoken quite a bit now. I want to pass the microphone over to you and allow you to start sharing more about your books and about what you'll be talking about today.
Great, wonderful. Well, thank
Joining
you
us.
so much for having me. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. It is such a pleasure to be here. Thank you. Um, yeah, I'm so excited to talk about books and reading, and I feel so blessed, alhamdulillah, to be able to have been telling stories that feature, kids like you, kids like me when I was little, kids like my own, in these stories, because I believe it's so important for all of us to have these books and stories where we see ourselves, we see our culture, we see our traditions, we see our values included in these books. And I've been doing it for a really long time. When I started, there weren't very many other people in this space, but alhamdulillah, that's been growing. And I know there's many other brilliant authors out there. And I'm so excited to be able to get to know them and mentor them. But especially, I'm excited to talk about some of my newest books that you might not have seen yet. I know some of mine have been around for many years, and you might have them in your collections. But like Sister Shaza said, we want to get you pumped to be reading. And there's no better way than to find a book that excites you. And there are so many different types of books out there for every type of reader. So if you don't love reading yet, it probably is that you just haven't found the types of books you connect with most. And so I always tell kids that there is a book out there that will capture your attention and make you want more. So I'm hoping that they might be some of mine, but we'll give you a little sneak peek into some of my newest books for different ages and in different formats. Um, and hopefully you will feel inspired to read these books in your free time. Maybe teachers, you'd like to use some of them in the classroom, and then maybe form book clubs and other exciting things around books and reading. So lots to talk about. And Sister Shaz and I are going to have a conversation about these books. I'm going to share my screen.
And Sister Hina, as you're doing that, I just want to give a shout out to some of the schools that are joining us here. We've got Elm Academy in Georgia, second to fourth grade. We've got Anur Academy from Massachusetts, second grade. Ibn Sina Academy, Orlando, Florida, fourth graders with Miss Baraz. Musli's class, Miss Siddiqui's class from Al Iman School in North Carolina. We have a third grade class from Sharon, Massachusetts. We have Miss Siddiqui's class who's read Amina's voice, and they're really excited to meet you, Sister
Oh,
Hina. We have Al Huda Islamic School, the preschool class, Sister Nuskia in California. And
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum Salam. And we've
Assalamu
got
alaikum, Mandy.
Hayward, California, third graders from North School Star School. We've got Ikra Academy in Pennsylvania, and so many more. Miss Cosme and IQA Texas and Dallas. So very excited, North Star School in California. So keep that coming, and inshallah, at the end of this visit, in the next 45 minutes, we'll also do a group picture. What do you think, Sister Henna? A
I
screenshot
would love
with
that.
everybody, okay?
I
But
would love that. And also if you have questions, please write them in the chat and we'll try to get to some of them, at the end if we have some time. Is there a way to spotlight you and me both?
oh yeah, sure, Sister
Oh
Henna.
my God.
I thought that
Especially
would
when we're chatting about the books, it'd be nice. Uh,
absolutely. There we go, Sister
all
Hannah.
right.
Yeah, so we'll do that, inshallah. That's what I was going to say. If anybody has questions, put it in the chat. Great. So I'll let you go, Sister Hannah, with
Okay.
getting started with the first book.
All right. Well, we have some questions. Do you want
Oh,
to?
yeah. Let's get started. Okay. I was wondering if you wanted to share that screen first. Or
Oh,
not me. Okay. All
I
right.
can wait until we get to the pictures.
All right, awesome. So, Sister Hannah, as we mentioned, we're going to talk about a few different books that you've authored. And the first one that we're starting with is something that I found really special, Behind My Doors. Can you tell us a little bit about why you wanted to write this book behind my doors?
Absolutely. So I have the book right here, and it is a story that I wanted to write for a very long time. It features two Muslim women, and it's a story about the oldest working library in the world, which was founded by a Muslim woman and restored by another Muslim woman. Here she is as a girl. And I thought this is a story the world needs to know. You know, such an amazing accomplishment. Fatima Al-Firi was the woman who founded the Al-Qarawiyyin Masjid and school, like that became a university, and the library with it. And so it was a story that captured my imagination and one that I really wanted to tell and share with the world, especially when I heard about its long history and all the things that all the amazing discoveries and ways knowledge was spread throughout the world thanks to all the scholars and thinkers and dreamers who came to Al Qarawiyyin.
That's so exciting to learn that it was a Muslim woman who opened the first library and that it's been restored. Is it something that we can go and visit too, I wonder?
Yes, I did go visit, but I got to stand outside of the library. It was right when the restoration, so the library had gotten very old and it was starting to fall apart. It was in danger of actually, being destroyed, and the books were in danger. But that's when Aziza Shaouni came in with her team and helped fix it up. And she was a little girl who grew up in Morocco, in Fez, and she used to walk by the library and see the doors and didn't even know what it was when she was a child. So I did get to go soon after it was restored, but it wasn't open yet.
Okay.
So I need to go back, inshallah, when it is open to everyone.
Inshallah, maybe some of our classes can take a field trip there. What do you guys think? To
Oh, that would
Morocco.
be
Has
good.
anyone been to Morocco? So, Sister Henna, who's the narrator in this story about this first library behind my doors?
I decided to tell the story from the point of view of the library itself. So the library is telling the story of its life, as, a way to frame it and hopefully make it exciting for the reader. And I can actually share with you some of the pages inside. Um, oh, there you go. This is the inside. And I can read you a few pages so you can get the idea. It says, Merhaba, I am Al Qarawiyyan Library, the oldest library in the world. I've collected books in Fez, Morocco for more than 1,000 years, but the story I'm about to share is my very own. So that's the way it begins, and it takes you through. I was born long, long ago in the year, oh, I can't even see what that says, but I think it's 859. Oops.
Yes.
When a young woman named Fatima had a bold idea to build a mosque and school for her community. I began as a small corner of books where Fatima spent hours reading, thinking, and dreaming. But I gradually grew into a grand building. My entrance faced a plaza connecting the narrow streets of the Medina. Outside, coppersmiths banged on tools, and merchants argued over prices all day. And then it goes on from there. One of the things I found most exciting about this library was this old door that was inside. And it was almost like a safe where there was four locks on this door and four keys that were held by four different people. And all four people had to come with their keys to open the door in the library. That's where the name behind my doors came from. And you'll have to read to know what is behind that special door. There's something that's very, very special to Muslims back there. And here you see the library in all its splendor, but it really, like I said, went through a hard time and needed, someone to come in and help save the day, which was this amazing architect, Aziza Shaouni. So I hope you'll love this story about the oldest library uh,
Wow.
in the world
I,
and feel proud, like I do, that it's part
I
of.
do feel really excited to know about that, Henna. And
Assalamu alaikum. We're Oceans Academy.
Walaikum
There
salam.
are. Say hi, everybody.
Thank you, Brother Amr. Thank you, Oceans Academy. I was wondering, sister, I can't wait to find out what is
Wait, we
behind it.
can't hear them.
Yes, Brother Amr, we heard you. Thank you. I think Brother Amr, if your class has a question or anybody's class has a question about this, put it in the chat for right now. I saw a hand raised too from one of the students, so feel free to put it in the chat and we'll get to that. We do have 4 books that we want to at least talk about. And so we want to, I know there's so much to be said and explored, and that's how much we're going to share with you about this book. But we want you to go to your library or to tell your parents about it, or to maybe your teacher can get it and you guys can read more about it, inshallah, and find out what's behind those doors. I know I'm going to have to do that because I'm very curious. Sister Hena, the other book that we wanted to talk about was Zara's Rules for Record-Breaking Fun. Can you show us that book? What inspired this series? Because this isn't just one book. I mean, Behind My Doors is just one book. It's not a series. But Zara's Rules and the Zara's Rules books are a series. So tell us what inspired this series.
Sure. And one thing I forgot to mention is, I'm the author of these books, so I've written the stories behind them. But all of my work has been illustrated by really talented artists. And this book was illustrated by Nabila Dani, who lives in Malaysia, I believe. And she did the
5th and 6th graders are going to be here.
Okay. um, but the Zara's Rule series, as you mentioned, is 3 books. And if you enjoy the first, you can get more of Zara's story, which is what I loved as a kid. I loved reading stories that had sequels.
Wait, we're trying to start this. Wait.
Of the series. And so this series is largely based on my life and my neighborhood and the things I used to do as a kid. And I will actually show you again a few of the pages. So here we have the beginning of this first book, which takes place mostly in Zara's neighborhood. And the picture on the right is actually the house across the street from mine when I was growing up. And there was a family that lived there and a little girl who I used to enjoy playing with. And I was really sad when they decided to move and that for sale sign went up, on their yard. And so that gave me the idea for the first book in the Zara series, where Zara is sad to realize that her neighbor's moving away. Here you see her playing outside with her little brother Zaid. I should mention that Zara is the sister of Zaid from my Zaid Salim Chasing the Dream series. So if you enjoyed that series, you get to have more of the same family, and Zara is Zaid's older sister. So here you see them with neighbors and friends playing a game of kickball when a moving truck pulls up to the house across the street. And Zara is nervous about who it's going to be. Will it be a family? Will there be kids? Will it change the dynamic of the neighborhood? Because Zara really likes being the one in charge in a nice way. Like, she likes to organize the kids into games and keep everything fair and make the rules. And she wonders, what if someone else comes along and changes everything? And here we see Zara meeting the neighbor who moves in across the street, a girl around her age named Naomi. And on the right, you see me in that red dress standing with my real friend, Naomi, who moved in across the street. So a lot of the things that happen in the series are things that we did as kids, like make a clubhouse out of an old tool shed, or have a wagon-based business where we tried to sell things to our neighbors. And we also tried to break Guinness World Records. Many of you have tried to break world records. This is a picture from the book where Zara is trying to break the world record for hula hooping. In real life, it was my friend who was the better hula hooper than I was. And she was the one who was trying to break the world record. And right when she was going strong, she had been going for 57 minutes without stopping. Something happened to get in the way. So lots of action and antics, and that was the stuff I loved to read as a kid. If you like stories where you're part of the action and you're like one of the kids in the neighborhood doing those things, you might enjoy these books. For me, I loved Beverly Cleary growing up, and I really loved Ramona Quimby and reading about the things she did with her friends, and the way she she sometimes got into trouble or whatever it was, and I really connected with those stories. And so these are sort of my tribute to those books that I loved so much growing up, and I hope you will too.
I got to read this book, Sister Henna, with my second grader. So it's a chapter book, and I think that I could see a wide range of students, many of the students joining us today, really enjoying that. And one of the things I really enjoyed about it too was just like even seeing that Zara was eating some of the food that we eat, or she was annoyed about some of the things that happen in well that I've also been annoyed of. And so it was so awesome to read a story about a main character who I really could connect with and see myself with. Thank you for
Oh,
writing that story.
thank you. I was so excited to be able to share that and have books about Muslim people where it's just about daily life. So the Islam is part of their experience, and you see that, and it's mentioned, but the story is about her being a kid and doing kid things, but you get to meet her grandparents, and you get to see them um, using Arabic words and praying and reading Quran and other things, but as she's just being a kid. So I really appreciate that.
So now we've talked about Behind My Doors. We've talked about Zara's Rules for Record Breaking Fun, which is just one story out of a whole series. Now let's talk about a different kind of story you've written, Sister Henna. Have any of you students who are joining us here, do you know what like a choose your own adventure book is? I can see some of you. You want to raise your hand? We don't,
Okay, so
anybody?
somebody.
Okay, I see some people in Kulsum's class. Okay, some people in Miss Taha's class and Sister Noor's school. Awesome. Okay, great. MashaAllah. So, Sister Hannah, let's talk about this next story, Super You and the Power of Flight. Super You, the Power of Flight. How does a pick your path story work?
So I'm glad some of you are familiar with this. This is a type of book I really enjoyed as a kid. And I have found that kids sometimes who don't even think they love reading yet, they will pick up these types of books and have a really fun time because in all of them, you are the main character and you sort of drive the story and make choices that lead you on different paths. So you're controlling this narrative, and it's a way to go on lots of different reading adventures. You can have lots of different things happen. And in this series, I actually have the second book in the series with me. This is Super You, The Power of Invisibility. The second one, if you like, well, you can read them out of order. It doesn't matter which one you read first. But in each of these, you, the main character, get some kind of superpower. And that in this case, it's invisibility. The first book is flight. So suddenly you, as a kid, can fly or turn yourself invisible. And it's a story about what you do with those powers and the choices you make. And will you decide to use them for good and become a superhero? Or will you decide to use them for evil, right? For not so good and become a super villain, right? So lots of imagination in these stories, lots of silliness. The evil isn't too evil, it's like kid evil. And lots of fun art inside of them. So you get some, really fun illustrations that look like comic books throughout. So I'm trying to find a nice comic page here, of course, when I need it. There you go. So really fun illustrations too. So yeah, that's a little bit about how they work.
So, Sister Hannah, what was the most exciting part or the most fun part about writing this book for you?
So I actually co-authored these books with one of my best friends who I have been friends with since second grade, Andrea
Wow.
Minotti. Yeah. And she is the person who kind of got me started writing books for kids. She's the person who believed in me when I didn't even believe in myself that this was something I could do. So it was so wonderful to get to do this with her. And we came up with a way to keep all the stories in our mind and be able to organize and write. I'm going to show you how we did that because it's a little bit different than usual. Um, Here we go.
And as you're showing that, Sister Hannah, I wonder how many of you students have written a book or want to be an author when you grow up? Are you already an author? MashaAllah, Miss Stewart's class. I see some authors there. Miss Mujib's class. MashaAllah. We have authors, Sister Hena.
We
So I,
need more. We need more. As I mentioned, we have more and more, Muslims publishing and telling stories, but we need more of them, and we need people from all backgrounds telling lots of different types of stories. So that's exciting to see. This is the cover of Super You that you can see is the power of flight. And here it's also clear, the hero on one half and the villain on the other side. So Yancy Labat was the one who did these amazing illustrations for us, both the covers and inside. And I think he did a great job capturing the spirit of the story. But this is how we mapped out the choices. So very different type of reading.
wow.
And when I visit school, sometimes I break it down and I explain it a bit more. But just to give you a quick peek, this is what our flow chart looked like. And we came up with the hero path in orange and the villain path in green. And that's what it looks like a bit zoomed in. So lots of movement in these stories. And like I said, lots of possible endings. But the exciting thing are these choices that you get to make as the reader. So here you see when you've just started, using your power of flight in the first book, and it's all of a sudden you're like floating out of a tree and your camp counselor sees you and is shocked, and there you are presented with the first choice. And you can probably guess here which one will get you, on the hero path and which one might take you on the villain path. And the choice is whether you tell the truth or you tell a lie. But we try to set each thing up as a possibility, right? You hear your counselor is saying, did you glide out of that tree? Are you okay? And then you're wondering what to do. And she says, I'm really concerned. There's something seriously wrong with you. Let's get you checked out. You take a deep breath. If you tell Molly the truth, she might be able to help you figure out what's going on. Why can you fly all of a sudden? But she also might freak out and tell everyone, which could be tough to deal with. You can tell by the look on her face that she saw you flying. So if you don't tell her, you're going to have to lie pretty convincingly. And there you see where you make the choice, and based on the choice you make, you turn to a different page. So when you're reading a book like this, you're not reading from beginning to end. You are flipping back and forth to different pages
Mm.
depending on the choices you make. And sometimes your story may end really quickly. And in that case, like when I was a reader, I like to go back and see what would happen if I made the other choice,
Yeah.
or I wanted to see what a different path might have been altogether. So it's a lot of fun, and it's gamified reading, which is a great way to experience story. And for those of you out there who like video games, it also ties in nicely to that as well.
And we have some people, we have some big fans of We Are Big Time, which we're going to get to it. But we've got one other story that we want to talk about before we get to We Are Big Time. That's a really fun one. I wonder how many of our students here would like to choose their own path and their own ending to some of those. That would be really fun. I think I would also want to read both of the options.
Yeah.
But sometimes you want to do that in life, right? Like, hey, if I did this, what would happen? And I did this. So that's fun to do it at least fictionally. Now, another really fun story that you've written, Sister Henna, is Drawing Deena. This is a middle grade story, so it's one more suited for middle schoolers. What will readers find relatable about Deena in this story?
So Deena is a girl who captured my heart. And she's somebody who I hope most readers would have something to be able to relate to. She's a girl who is really thoughtful and, wants to be a good daughter, which I know many of us want to do, like be good to our parents. She wants to help them. She feels, a little bit nervous about asking for what she wants, especially when she thinks it might, make things more hard for her family. So she keeps a lot of things to herself, and she keeps a lot of things inside. Um, but she also is this incredible artist, and that's something that she feels excited about. I'm actually going to share my screen with you and show you the artist who she's inspired by. There's some clues on the cover. Um, but if you don't pick that up, I don't know if anybody can guess who the artist is that Deena might be inspired by here. There's some clues here, but here's some more clues. Some of the questions that I thought about when I was writing this book, and that's one of the joys of getting to write these stories, is I get to think about the things that I'm, wondering and puzzling through right now in my life. Like many of us are as adults or as young people, we all have similar questions. Like how can we find ourselves in making art, right? What is the role of making art in our lives? And what is the difference between what's popular and what's good, right? And what does that mean? And does popularity matter? Does, being true to yourself, is that what really matters? And also, what is the power and the problem or the challenge of social media? So, if you haven't guessed, the artist who Deena really connected with and admired initially was Vincent van Gogh, and she was trying to copy his style until she learns to find her own. But she's dealing with some of these questions that many of us face. And I know for me, social media is something that's been a big challenge. I feel like it's part of my job to go online and share my work and share my books with people, but it's also a tricky place that can make us feel really bad about ourselves. And the older kids and adults on here can probably relate to that. And the idea of, how does it change us when we worry so much about what other people think, right? That's not what we should be focused on. So hopefully Deena will be a fun read, but also one that makes you think and that you can relate to as you're trying to figure some of these things out. That's what I like, books that help me make sense of the world and sort of, sort out the questions and concerns I have, and to feel less alone, right? Because that's what we want in story, to feel seen and also to relate to our characters, but also realize that other people are thinking about the same things we are and maybe having some of the same challenges in our life that we are. And I mentioned that Deena keeps a lot of things bottled up inside, and one of the things she doesn't realize is that she actually has some anxiety and she doesn't know what that is, and it's making her stomach hurt, and it's, giving her other issues, but she doesn't realize what it is. So I think that's something important for us to talk about as a community as well, like what you can do and how we can work through that as a community, as families, in school settings, and make sure that we all feel better and know how to move through that and push forward, inshallah.
Do you have a favorite part of the story in drawing, Deena?
I have lots of little moments that I really liked. I love writing, as you mentioned in your nice intro. I love writing about families and relationships and siblings. So some of those moments are some of my favorite. And of course, friends as well.
Nice. Well, Sister Hena, as we're preparing to talk about this last story, I do want to remind our wonderful students that if you've got a question, we want to invite you to write your question down or let your teacher write it in the chat so that we can ask Sister Hena in the last part of this conversation, inshallah. And we'll mention your name and your school and the grade that you're in, inshallah. So, Sister Hannah, the last book that we're going to talk about is a story that's, again, very different than the other kinds of books that we've talked about so far. And it's called We Are Big Time. It's one of your latest releases, although I heard you're going to kind of unbox a new story for us that no one else knows about and has seen yet. So we'll be the first to see that. I'm excited. But let's talk about We Are Big Time first. So We Are Big Time is a graphic novel that you've released, Sister Hannah. We really enjoyed here in Austin, Texas, having you come and talk with us in person about it. And so I've gotten the chance to take a look at that. Is it true that this story is based on that this story was based on a true story and one about an Islamic school?
Yes, yes. And that's why I thought this book in particular would be extra special to share with all of you, because it is set in an Islamic school and it is based on a true story of the Salam School girls basketball team at the Salam School in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And I was fascinated when I learned about the story. It was a teacher, actually, in Wisconsin who emailed me an article about the Salam School team. And then I started to research more about them and read more articles about them. They even had a video story on them and a Bleacher Report segment on them. So they got a lot of attention, the team did, when under the direction of a new coach, they went from being a pretty terrible team to starting to win. And as they won, they got coverage in the local paper, but they got a lot of attention because of the fact that they were all wearing their hijabs as part of their uniform. And that story got picked up, and suddenly they were in the national media, on CNN, and then like all that video coverage started. And I wanted to find out more, so I reached out to the school and I asked them if I could possibly talk to them. And I was so grateful that the coach of the team connected me with four players from the school, and they were all able to talk with me and explain what it was like to not only be a part of that team with that amazing turnaround season, but also what it was like to all of a sudden have cameras following around and asking you all these questions. And they really gave me the story behind the story, which is what I wanted to write about.
Wow. So is that how did you meet the main character whose name is Alia? Is that really the name of the one of the players, or how did
So I did get to meet the players and the coach that I spoke to after I had written the book in person, but I had spoken to them on the phone and interviewed them first. And I took what they told me and I ended up making a fictional character named Alia.
Mhm.
And she is sort of a combination of the girls I had spoken to and the different things that she's experiencing, as somebody who moved to this new school and tried joining the team, and some of the ways that she's struggling to balance being on a team with her schoolwork, and also the way she's really hard on herself as a player and focuses on her mistakes instead of what she does well. I know some of us, I do that. I know some of us do that. Those were all based on things people told me. So I took the little pieces from the interviews and made this fictional character. And I'll show you actually the real life um, characters, the real life inspirations behind the story here. There we have the cover. We are big time. And this is an example of some of the articles that I read when I first, heard about the team. The one on the left is in the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, which is like a local Milwaukee paper. But then the one on the right is, CNN. I felt so proud to see these girls. Um, and that also made me decide to write this book as a graphic novel because I thought seeing these girls all together in their hijabs was such a powerful image. And I had never seen that before. I had seen Ibn Hajj Muhammad or like a famous like a track star, or like sometimes on commercials you'll see like a Nike ad and they'll include a hijabi athlete, but I'd never seen a whole team like this, highlighted this way. And here you see the coach with the players. Um, and that was what made me want to tell it as a graphic novel. Um, and I'll show you a little bit of how I wrote it. So this is, the making of a graphic novel. Like I showed you that outline that we had for Super You, which was, that flow chart with all the choices and the boxes. This is really different. When I wrote this, again, I'm the writer. I didn't illustrate this. I described what happens in every box. Every little comic box is described by me. Panel, we call them panels. So each box is a panel, and I'm writing what people are saying and the captions, like where we are. And here is 2 pages where Alia is in her gym class and her teacher's asking her to demonstrate a layup. And then it goes to the artist. So in this case, Sophia, who did an amazing job bringing my thoughts to life. So initially, she does it like this, where it's, sketches and you don't see the speech bubbles yet. And this is where she, mapped out everything, which was incredible to see, like what I was imagining, drawn by somebody else. Um, and here we had a chance to comment. And this is where I have people in my family who are basketball obsessed. It's the NBA playoffs right now. It's a big deal in my house. But it was helpful to have other people look at the art. And even though Sophia did an amazing job with the basketball, my husband pointed out, that doesn't quite look like a layup there. So we went back and gave some tips, and she did another round of revisions. And then finally, it started to look like this, where you can see it evolved, and the layup form is quite different. She's shooting with her right hand, and here you see it when it's been inked. So once the sketches are done and once the art is final, she goes back and she inks it all and adds those captions and speech bubbles. So it's a lot of work to make a graphic novel. And here we see when it's been colored in. So after all of that, they go back and color it all in, and bring the story to life.
MashaAllah. So there's a lot of work that goes into writing books. Well, Sister Hannah, we've got some questions that we want to ask that the students have typed in here. So first of all, we have a request. Can you do more books like We Are Big Time? And also somebody asked, is there a sequel coming for We Are Big Time? That is a question that Sophia in Miss Sadiqi's class asked.
Oh, thank you, Sophia. I don't have a sequel in the works at the moment. I have been asked that a bit. So we'll see. Like I have done series and I have done sequels, like Amina's Voice has a sequel, Amina's Song. But in general, publishers don't love doing sequels that much unless, because every time there's a new book in a series, it generally less people read it than the first one. So they're always looking for like new, fresh stories, unless, you write Harry Potter or something that's like a big, multi-book, or Diary of a Wimpy Kid or something like that. For graphic novels, though, I am writing more, and I have a new one that's being illustrated right now, about a girl named Zoya and her family going on a trip to Istanbul, Turkey. And it's based a lot on my family's travels, and I'm really excited to see how that turns out. And I think just seeing the city of Istanbul illustrated will be so gorgeous. And then I'm about to begin my third graphic novel as well, which is very different, which I don't think I can talk about yet. Um,
Oh, okay.
but yeah, but inshallah, more books and more, series. But in terms of follow-up books, I'm actually right now writing books 4 through 6 of the Zaid Salim series. So even though those original 3 books came out, in 2018 and 19, we're continuing the series now. And Zaid is actually going to take up soccer as his second sport, and still keep his love for basketball.
All right. Well, I think that there might be a lot of soccer lovers joining us here who will enjoy that. We have a few more questions. Have you ever made a book about children getting bullied? And what story is that? What might have inspired you to write that?
So I haven't written about kids being bullied, and one of the reasons is I feel like, as a Muslim, as a Pakistani American growing up in America, I know that many of our children do unfortunately face bullying. Um, and I know that it's something that affects a lot of us, especially in public. I went to public school, and when I was growing up, thankfully, it wasn't a problem for me. And alhamdulillah, it wasn't a problem for my children as well. But they grew up in a different time, and they had to hear some pretty nasty things that people were saying about Muslims in general, not specifically targeting them, but it was hurtful for them. So it's definitely something that I'm aware of and I think about a lot. It's something I talk about a lot, especially when I visit public schools. I always, remind people that it's not okay to say these things. And I always, encourage people to be champions and like defend what's right. But in my stories, I like to really celebrate our communities and uplift our kids. And I like to write about other struggles that kids are facing, not just bullying. I do think there are a lot of books out there that do touch on bullying. But my characters tend to be struggling with things around, confidence and, reaching their dream, or, something like anxiety, or, being the best version of themselves, but less external stuff. For me, I never want my Muslim characters, to have their Muslimness, or their identity be their challenge. Like I want them to be dealing with regular life challenges that we all face, and for them to feel proud of who they are. And even though bullying is a hard thing that many of us face, like I think books can be an escape and a way to connect and relate and celebrate our community and and hopefully be entertained in different ways.
I
So
feel like you kind of answered a little bit about this, but I want to read that Sister Asia from Al Iman School. Our friend Asia has asked, what inspired you to become an author? So I feel like you kind of are getting at that in your answer, but if you could
yeah,
answer this so that Asia might also be
yeah.
inspired.
Thank you, Asia. So, for me, when I grew up, I never had stories that had characters like me in them. And I wasn't very confident sharing who I was as a Pakistani American Muslim growing up in the 1980s. People knew a lot less about Islam, but I didn't always know how to share, what Ramadan was even with my friends at school, and I just didn't feel like people wanted to know about those things about me. And I also never saw it in stories. And I just sort of thought maybe people like us don't belong in stories, which is not true at all, right? It's just that nobody was writing them back then. So I started to write the stories when I became a mother. Like Dr. Shaza, I'm a mother of two, and when they were growing up, they're grown up now, but when they were little, I wanted them to have the stories I didn't have. So that was my main focus, was so that they could be included in the stories, that they could go to a library or bookstore and find books that had characters who look like them, and for all of us to feel seen and included and to celebrate, the beauty of Islam and our communities and our families.
And so, Sister Hena Suleiman from, let me see, where are you from, Suleiman? Suleiman from Elementary Montessori at Elm Academy is asking, how long have you been an author? So you said that you started when you were, now we'll know how old your oldest kiddo is because you shared with mom.
Yeah, he was a baby when I started, and he just turned 24. So I've been doing it for a long time. My friend Andrea, though I mentioned, she was the one who got me started writing for Scholastic book clubs. And I was hired to write books for different series about spies and space and other things. But as a mom and as my son Bilal grew up and was a toddler, and I took him to the library and I was looking for those stories, there was nothing that, I could take to a, a public library or to a school. Like he was in a little Montessori preschool. There were books that you could find about, how to be a Muslim, stories of the Quran, things like that. But I just wanted something. The first book I wrote, Night of the Moon, was about Ramadan and how we celebrate and how we observe this special month. And so that's I wrote it because there was nothing else like it at the time.
And so, from Miss Kulthum Huda's class, they are asking, how many books have you written, Miss Hena?
So since those first books that I wrote for Scholastic book clubs, and then started writing, my own, it's I have about 25 books of my own. And then if I add those in, it's probably like more than 35 now. And inshallah, more to come. The ones I mentioned and others. It takes a long time to make these books. So the ones I'm writing now, you won't probably see for 2 years. But inshallah, more to come.
That's exciting. Ibrahim from Al Iman School wants to know what inspired you to write the Morocco story, the one called Behind My Doors.
Oh,
I
yes.
mean, you told us a little bit about it, that it is a very inspirational story. Did you just hear about it one day, or what kind of planted that seed to move you from knowing about it to writing about it?
Yeah, so there was a book that I was reading that was it was a National Geographic exhibition on the wonders and inventions of the Muslim world.
Mm,
And in that book, there was a tiny little section that had little cartoon people and in Islamic history, and one of them was Fatima al-Firi, and it mentioned that, well, in the I think it might have called her a princess in that book, um, and I wasn't able to find that she was actually a princess. I think she was the daughter of a wealthy merchant,
mm,
but it mentioned that she had founded this university. And I said, a Muslim woman started the first university in the world. That is huge. And so that was the story I thought about more than 10 years ago. But I talked to my editor about it at the time and I said, look at this amazing fact, you know, we have to share this with the world. And she said, well, you know, like little kids, if it's a picture book, kids don't go to university until they're much older. I don't know. So we kind of put it aside. And then many years later, I heard about the library being restored. And it was, you know, all of a sudden I thought, I'm somebody who loved the library growing up and spent a lot of time there. And that was, I felt like the way to tell the story after so many years. So
Mm.
really inspiration from different places, a book and then a news story. So we can find ideas all around us all the time.
Mashallah. Well, we've got some more ideas here being thrown here, and I'm just going to quickly read through them, and then I'm going to ask for those of who are joining us, if you don't mind, putting your cameras on, and we'll take a group picture before, if it's allowed for us to post your picture on our Instagram. If it's not allowed, you don't have a parent consent release form, then we won't do that. Don't open your thing then. Okay, so we've got a few more questions or ideas, maybe, Sister Henna. So I'll rapid fire ask you these.
Okay.
It'll be really quick questions, quick answers. Okay. So this one is there a boy version of We Are Big Time, or would you consider writing it?
Oh, well, I don't believe in boy and girl books. I think all books are for everybody. And if you like basketball and you like action, you should absolutely read We Are Big Time, no matter if you're a boy or a girl. So as of now, you know, if you want to read about a boy who plays basketball, check out my Zaid Salim Chasing the Dream books. But in general, I hope kids of all, you know, all types
Yeah.
read all my books.
So you can read whether you're a boy or a girl. We Are Big Time is a story that's very inspiring. All right. Noah from Ilm Elementary is asking, how many graphic novels have you written?
So this is my first, I've written two. One is being illustrated now, and I'm about to write my third.
Sister Jihan and Sister Soheila's class is asking, what's your favorite book? I love that.
Oh, so well, when I was growing up, I loved Ramona Quimby books, as I mentioned. I loved Little Women was my favorite book growing up. When I got a little bit older, and I used to read it over and over, and that inspired my book More to the Story, which is sort of based on Little Women.
When did you dream of being an author when you were young? So you started when you became a mom, but did you dream of being an author when you were younger?
I think I always dreamt of writing a book, and I used to write for fun, but I didn't really think it was possible. And like I said, since I never saw people like me in books, I also never saw names like mine that were the authors of books. So I don't think I really allowed myself to even dream that. But I did sort of imagine, like, what would it be like to write a book that other people hold in their hands? And I still marvel at that today.
MashaAllah. Thank you, Yusra, for asking that question. And Sola is asking, have you played basketball before?
I have played, not well. I like to play for fun. I used to play in like gym class and with my friends in the neighborhood, and I can play a pretty good game of horse, but I'm no basketball player. I did play field hockey for a bit.
Sola, do you play basketball? I wonder. And then Brother Muhammad is asking if you have any books about the companions of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So that's maybe an idea for the future. Yes, Sister Hannah. And we'll
I do
answer that.
not. So if you've know, like most of my books are not about Islam specifically or Islamic history. They're more about, you know, American Muslims living in the US. My concept books or my picture books are more about Islam in general, but more Islamic objects and concepts and not individuals, since of course we don't want to illustrate them.
So now we're going to have to wrap up, even though I see now it seems like the juices are rolling and we've got even more questions. Here's the thing, inshallah, the teachers and schools, we're going to send out information about how you can have a one-on-one visit with Sister Henna for your classroom or your school, inshallah, in the fall. So we'll send out that information so that you can have a more interactive experience coming up in the fall, inshallah. At this time, I want to ask you if you and your class are willing to be on camera with us. Go ahead and show us your cameras. I'm going to add, and I'm going to ask, I'm going to actually remove the spotlights. So we'll do a quick screenshot of everybody here. Assalamualaikum, Nicole. All right, anyone else? Hey, Nadia. Okay, ready, guys?
Nice to see everyone.
And you can even unmute yourselves and we can all say Salam alaikum to each other. Ready? I'm going to do a screenshot. Oh, all right. Assalamu alaikum. One, two, three. On three, we're all going to say Assalamu alaikum. You can unmute, okay? Ready? 1, 2, 3. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much, Miss Jihan's class, Miss Nicole, Miss Sohaila's class, Miss Kulthum, Miss Kazmi's class, Mr. Amir's class, Miss Noor's class, and everybody else who's joined us, Miss Miski's class, Miss Halima's school, Miss Sadia's class, Mayada, Noor Khalil, Madiha, mashallah, Jazakallah khairan. Thank you all so much for joining us. It was so nice, Miss Hena, to meet you. Thank you for talking about your books.
Oh,
You
thank
guys
you for
can
having me.
unmute. We'll listen to all the noise right now in this last minute.
Ready? Yeah. Now I got my points.
Oh, I see some books there.
Thank you. Oh, Nadia, that's awesome.
Hi, everybody. Greetings.
Thank you for being such great listeners. Thank you. All right, guys, we'll see you later. Assalamu alaikum. Bye.
Assalamualaikum.
Alaikum salam, Nadia. Thank you. Thanks, Miss Hena.
Thank
We're
you,
done.
everybody.
Start the video.
Bye.